week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of the shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 346. Mr. Somich.
Huzzah! We're still not all the way back.
Heavy fog canceling Aqueduct final race today. That pick six carrying over to tomorrow. And also, the heavy fog still going on in Mike Somich's brain. But we're happy that you're here. Happy to have you. How you doing, buddy?
What a wild move from Aqueduct, right? I mean, they canceled the pick six, which means it carries over. They didn't do it the race before, so they get all the wagering money from that. And now they get 25% takeout on another pick six carryover on their next racing day. Like, sneaky genius. But, man, if I was the person, because there was one person, I'm assuming, alive, to the whole pool, $139,000, to the favorite and the second favorite, which were clearly the best two horses in the race, I would be a little pissed off at Naira right now. Just saying. A little pissed off.
Well, listen, we weren't those people, so piss on them. The rest of us can get that carryover money tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. It is kind of shitty, but listen, we're not worrying about that. We're worrying about Stronach 5. It's kind of an interesting weekend. We've got the Holy Bull Stakes kind of running everything at Gulfstream Park and lots of stakes action. But if you want all that information, go get the inside track to the Holy Bull Stakes wagering guide. It's available now at RaceNews.com. Mike and I, we're covering Stronach 5 Friday. Mike, for people who are our listeners, maybe they're not so familiar with why this is a really good sequence for horse players. Talk about why it's so beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, we love the Stronach 5. It's a 5-race sequence across the country, and it's quick, which is nice. So it's not your traditional pick 5 where you got to wait 30 minutes between each race. A little bit shorter here, where you're gonna get about 10-15 minutes between each race. You get the whole sequence done in an hour and a half. On top of that, dollar denomination, which I love. I've talked about quite a bit why I like these higher denomination pick 3s, pick 4s, and pick 5s. They really eliminate people from being able to go all. Your tickets get really expensive really fast if you don't single. So it really makes you shorten some legs, and I think it creates it makes long shots more valuable in these sequences versus when you're playing a 50 cent or a 20 cent denomination. And finally, the takeout is muy bueno. What is it? It's either 12% or 15%. I think it's
12.
15%. Oh, it's 12?
Yeah.
There we go. 12%. Muy bueno, like I said. So it's a very low takeout. $1 denomination makes it nice. And then you got the excitement of just flying through it because it's happening so fast. So all around a good bet. Challenging handicapping wise because you go from really low-level horses at Laurel. You go onto the synth at Gulfstream. You end with some 4,000 NX2 and NL2 horses from Golden Gate. So yeah, a little bit kooky.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. You stole my thunder. I was gonna talk about that. How we go from we got 16K maidens at Laurel. We end with 4K downwards, 2 lifetime at Golden Gate, and somewhere in between, we could see the actual Kentucky Derby winner if you have a high opinion enough of one of those horses. A really crazy sequence, and that's that big Gulfstream race is why I wanted to do this. I saw that the American Icon, Ironworks, all those horses were going to be part of this. I was like, we've got to do it. That race alone is equally, if not more exciting than any of the races we'll see Saturday. So you have everything great with Stronach 5. The full pool pays out, which is really nice. I think Mike said there's no carryover unless it doesn't go untouched, which I think with this sequence, Mike, it's probably going to get hit, so we don't have to worry about that. But before we get into it, real quick, best thing you saw this week, other than the nice show that we had honoring you yesterday.
I don't even know, man. I am so wildly unprepared for this because I was the reason we were late today. I was handicapping tomorrow and trying to figure out this Aqueduct track because the bias completely flipped from last weekend to today. Best thing I saw, let's go with the All-Star game. My boy Jordan Cairo is going to be in the fastest skater competition.
Nice.
Which is one of my favorite competitions. So excited about that. And then they're supposedly doing some trick shot stuff on the Vegas Strip, which I also think will be pretty cool. So I'm excited to see kind of what they do with that. Interesting that we have both the All-Star game for the NHL and the NFL in Vegas on the same weekend. So I'm kind of excited to see if they do any crossover trick shot competitions.
That'd be incredible. I forgot they were in Vegas for it. Do you know who owns the NHL record for the single lap speed from specifically the NHL fastest skater competition?
I wouldn't be shocked if it's Fedorov or...
Ooh, you're on the right team. You're way too early. It's actually Dylan Larkin, our captain. Did it in 2016. 13.17 seconds doing a full lap on the ice rink. That's fucking flying.
Isn't that when he cheated though? Wasn't he the one who got like a half-step jump?
Semantics, Michael. It is officially on record. I actually don't remember that one. I remember after it happened. You would remember, honestly. You'd remember that one better. I always liked that one. And then the back when Al McInnes was playing for St. Louis for a decade or so, the slap shot competition, just how it wasn't just a competition, really. It was more how fast will Al McInnes slap a puck and everybody else can try too, because that dude would do 104, 107. And, like, if you're a goalie, how are you not shitting your pants when you're just like, oh, God, every time that puck goes flying by?
It's scary, man, especially as a Blues fan watching him on the power play for all those years. It was an absolute blast, pun intended, to see him just loaded up from the point. So, yeah, it was wildly enjoyable. I always liked the accuracy competition with the foam targets that just explode when the puck nails them. I thought that was kind of fun. I had a net growing up where I had a goalie with those 4 corners open, so that I could shoot right into him. I used to pretend I was in that accuracy competition, and I would always dominate, of course.
I don't know about you. I had a similar setup, but I think mine was pretty cheap, and it didn't go all the way down to the ground. So like if I didn't flip it, it just would score, but it rolled just underneath like lazily. Real annoying on that one. But I had something like that too. The targets, they explode like the Randy Johnson bird that he hit with the fastball that one time. Just poof, it's like, well, there used to be a bird there and now there's not.
Pro tip: you put a 2x4 on the bottom of the net.
All right, let me get in a time machine and go back 26 years and tell myself that thanks. I'll remember that for Colson when, not if, but when I start teaching him hockey. His mom's very much against it, but I'm like, listen, he's not going to get concussions like football. He'll lose some teeth, but the concussions, the rest of his head is fine. Just ignore the pearly whites there. Best thing that I saw, and you and I, we off air talk about this a lot. We have differing opinions. I still love what's happening with Boba Fett, but I will say the latest episode of Boba Fett, if you were not ingrained into like all the animation and the lore and like the real deep diving shit, if you're just watching the show and trying to enjoy it because that's kind of what should happen here, I don't know how much you would have enjoyed it, but there was so much Star Wars in that episode of Star Wars, and I loved it as a Star Wars fan. I talked to other big fans, but I'm curious what your take was because you aren't as ingrained in that, and I'm just curious what you thought.
I mean, it feels like they wrote 4 episodes of the show. They decided it was shit and started to make Mandalorian season 2.5, and then they're going to bring in all of the characters that everyone loves to try and make it seem like everyone thinks it's good. I think that's really the best way to describe it. Great 2 episodes.
Yes.
Not the show that I was watching for the first 4. So not really sure what I watched for the first 4. Thanks for wasting my time. Could have just fast forwarded to this.
It was like really good fan fiction is what I told my wife. It's like somebody wrote really good fan fiction about what happened with Boba Fett. What I hate, honestly, the thing that I hate the most about the show is that the trailers sold us that this was going to be Sopranos in space. Like he's going to be a gangster and become a criminal empire and build this whole thing. We got 1 episode left. We haven't seen jack shit of that. We've got 1 episode left and we're supposed to have a whole war. We haven't had a war yet. We're supposed to do that 1 episode?
His army is 4 like Lego characters that are on neon scooters. 2 people who don't speak English.
The 2 green pigs. Don't forget the green pigs.
Well, those are 2 that don't speak English. Chewbacca, or Chewbacca, I think it was.
Black Chewbacca, yeah.
And now Mandalorian is pulling in some townspeople that just got dusted by an assassin. Like there's no war here. This is ridiculous. I have lots of issues with this show, but we're a horse racing show, so we're not going to go into that. Glad to hear Jared had a day at Gulfstream. Earth, the 2nd time in a row, man. That's awesome. Way to go. Yes, and the outside was money at Aqueduct today. It was wild how many horses were able to come from behind, especially since you had a golden rail that was all speed, and now it's like a golden, I don't know, opposite of rail, middle of the track, 8-path. It's kind of crazy there.
The popcorn lane, right? That's the lane you go down if you want some popcorn from the stands.
Lots of high fives could be given out to the fans today if you could see them going through the fog. And Sam Houston did close tonight, but luckily, for us degenerates, we've got a pick 5 carryover at our buddy Charlestown, which, by the way, is 12% takeout. So we're going to cover a couple races from there and then cover Charlestown's pick 5 during Good Chuck, Bad Chuck. Good Chuck, Bad Chuck on the Equine Edge YouTube channel, which it's you and Brady Klotz, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of your fans from that show will be excited to hear about your NHC, and Brady will want to talk about that. But like Mike said, we are a horse racing show. Let's get into the Stronach 5. 5 races to cover coast to coast. Lots of fun. Riders up!
All right, Mike, kicking off Friday Stronach 5 sequence. We're going to Laurel Park for race 8 on their card. Actually, their last race of the day for them, and this is a field of 9 maiden 3-year-old males going to one-turn dirt mile. They're in for a $16,000 tag unless you want to take the weight allowance. You see that here with the 8-horse Made to Be Lucky already with the bug. Let's throw an extra few pounds off there to try and get home at 30-1. Your favorite at 8-5 is the 7 Pit Stop Man. Looking at this field and handicapping him, I think he's going to be a hell of a lot shorter than that, and it's actually what kept me from singling him. I do love him, but I'm going to go too deep here. What about you?
Yeah, it's the reason I singled him.
Okay.
I just don't want to go too deep if I'm using a horse I think is going to be 3-5, and the 3-5 shot's my top pick, and I think the 3-5 likely wins 70% of the time, which means that the price is about right at 3-5. So I wanted to get around the favorite, but because of the dollar denomination and I'm going to spread a little bit in every other leg, basically, I decided that I am going to single the 7th Pit Stop Man here. Not creative, but it's one of those situations where it's probably the best horse, probably has a pace advantage. When you combine those two at low levels in horse racing, usually they're pretty tough to beat.
I watched that replay, his last race. He got stuck inside. There was a 4-horse pace. He lost a little bit of ground, and then he kind of rerouted and had the lead a little bit, and then he just ended up getting run down by a long shot. But it was kind of a case, reminded me of the Lecomte Stakes a little bit in the sense that you have Epicenter who's going, getting pressured, and he's fine, and then some damn long shot comes and catches him right at the wire. And something you taught me a long time ago, Mike, when you see a horse get caught in a pace duel and finish second, where'd the other pace horses go? There's 3 of them. They finished 5th, 6th, and last in that field. Combine the fact that was at Aqueduct, and now we move to Laurel. I think it's easier for him. I understand why you was singling him. I did use the one Blame It on the Fun at 8-1 because I think that this horse is a little sneaky. The breeding says this horse should be going at least a mile. He's by Blame. He's stretching out after going 5.5, 6 furlongs, takes a small claiming price drop. That last race, he actually caught a really speed-favoring track in the return from a layoff, and then he was, obviously running too short. So I think stretching him out is going to be beneficial. I like the 7-pound allowance here with a Bug Boy. Again, the 7, very strong favorite. If you want to single, I'm not going to blame you. I just think that Blame It on the Fun's got a little bit of a sneaky upside there at 8-1.
Did you see the 3 prices he went off at in his 3 races?
Remind me.
By any chance?
Yeah. 49-1, 48-1, and 104-1.
So you get a slightly worse price here today on the one. And that was one of the main reasons that I kind of stayed away from it. I get the angle of the idea of stretching out sprint to route, especially for a horse that probably should have been routing the whole time anyway. It'd be interesting to see where this horse is. I feel like you have to be in first or second to be able to win if you're on this horse, especially short, like with the stretch out from 6 furlongs to a mile. So be interested to see kind of where Blame It on the Fun ends up running. If I did go too deep here, I actually wouldn't use the 4 money code. I'm a little more interested in the 5-horse. Oh man, Askin Kalua. We're going to Askin Kaluka. Should have seen the name before I even brought it up.
You should have just picked a different horse. You know what? Just because of the name, I'm going to go with the 4 because I can say money code.
Yeah, money code's a lot easier. That's a horse that to me, okay, you have a race on the synthetic that probably is good enough to win. The race prior to that improved for second time out, improved third time out. Has gone 2 turns. To me, there's enough with the 5 that I could make a case for it if you really are against the 7. But I feel like I'm reaching to try and get to like a 6-1 shot when I like the 3-5, the eventual 3-5 favorite in this race. So that's why I ended up singling Pit Stop Man. But if I did go too deep, it would be the 5-horse.
If you were to guess here, sorry, I thought that the way that you ended, I thought you were going to keep it's fine.
I was going to say the name again. I decided not to.
Gotcha. Okay. If you were going to take a guess, because you brought up the fact that the 1 is gone off at very high odds all 3 races, what do you think he actually goes off at? Because you bring up a great point. At 8-1, is that more a testament that this is just a much more terrible field than what he's facing without being able to look at who he faced before? Really?
Yeah. I mean, well, you look through it. The 2 is awful. The 3 is awful. The 4 is like a mile behind in every race, so you're having to come from behind against a speed horse. The 5, I think, is a little intriguing. The 6 is awful. The 8 is awful. The 9 is awful. So I mean, I bet you get around 12-1, 13-1. You're going to float up a little bit because of the money the 7 is going to take. I think the 5 takes a little bit of money. I think the 4 takes a little bit of money. But outside of those 3, I wouldn't bet your money on any horse in this field, right? Like that, not based on the form. Now, if you know something, or if you kind of want to take a shot with like the 9, I guess you could take a shot with the 9. But I mean, I just don't see too much on paper in this race, and so because of that, I mean, all these factors why I'm singling the 7. I would love to make a case for a long shot. I'd love to tell you to beat the 7. I just don't think it's possible in this spot.
Let's move on to the second leg of Fridays. I keep on saying Saturday. Fridays, Stronach 5. We're going on the Tapeta, but we're not going to Golden Gate quite yet. We're actually going to Gulfstream for race 8 on their card. Field of 8 3-year-old fillies going a mile and 70 yards. 2 turns at Gulfstream. Starter allowance for fillies who started for 16K or less. Not winners of 2 other than not counting the claiming, and that actually is going to play into a horse that I love here. But your favorite is the number 6, Ready to Film at 3-1. And it's a little odd to me, Mike, because she's the 3-1 favorite in this field, but she doesn't have Tapeta form. She's got nice form coming in, but it's Tampa turf form. She's got to face 5 rivals in this race who've all been on the surface before. 3 of them have won on it. So to me, this feels like a vulnerable favorite, and I'm playing against her, but I'm going to defer to the master on the final word.
Look, I used her. I used her because Paco picks up the mount for Bennett.
Uh-huh.
Bennett's a good trainer at Tampa, knows what he's doing. You're also taking a what I believe is a decent drop in class here. I don't think it's a parallel. I think this is kind of the lowest level non-claimers they have on the Tapeta at Gulfstream at the $16,000 level. We're dropping in from $35,000, $32,000 races over at Tampa, and $75,000 allowance right before that. I also think that the trip here is going to be very beneficial for Ready to Film. You mentioned horses that have won over the Tapeta course. You're right. There are quite a few. But if you look at like War of Ages, who I'm not going to use, I'm guessing you are, one going 5.5 furlongs on the lead, right? That type of horse is one that I'm not really as interested in because of the difference this Tapeta course plays going 5.5 versus going 2 turns. So I think that Paco is actually going to get a pretty good trip with tactical speed, be able to kind of swing out wide and run down the middle of the track, which is exactly the trip you want. And there's a sneaky amount of speed in this spot too. The 1, the 3, and the 5, I think all are going to contest for the early lead, and that's going to set it up for the rest of the field.
So you went 3 deep, and we talked all about the one horse that we didn't agree on, but we agree on the other 2, and that includes my top pick in this race, and that's the 8, who I got to scroll down to get on the screen here. Amazing Queen. Mike gives me the thumbs up. 8-1. Mike, I love all price horses pretty much in this race, and she's 8-1. I feel like we're getting a great number there. She's got back-to-back solid efforts, but hard fought. Like you can tell this horse has got a lot of heart. It's over this course and distance, routing on the Tapeta. First time she loses by a half a length. Second time she wins by a head. She gets claimed out of that. She goes to Theranos. It's a barn that's hitting at 15% with over 100 sample size. So a barn that is consistently strong on synthetic. This horse has beaten multiple rivals that she's going to face in here, who neither of us are really considering that strongly. And then she comes from off the pace. So I'm not really worried about this outer draw. And we're getting Junior Alvarado. All good points, all things to me that are saying this horse could run well. Did I miss anything for you?
Only other thing is third off a layoff, and the difference we've seen on this horse going 2 turns on the Tapeta versus going 1 turn on the dirt. Like you can completely draw a line through those previous 3 races. And if this is her 3rd start of her career and all you saw was those 2 races, I bet she's close to the favorite in this race.
Let's also talk about the 4 horse, Kagua. I'm going to guess that's how you say it. 9-2, third choice on the morning line. Last time out, finally gets the win, and she's been running a long time, especially for being early in her 3-year-old season. So the question is, was it finally just her time? She met enough bad horses that haven't won yet. Was it the Lasix? She's getting Lasix here again. I'm going to say maybe it was the Lasix. Maybe just, sometimes the light bulb switches on for the horses. So if it was the Lasix, she'll definitely do well here. I like that Castellano's going to keep them out. Clearly, she likes the surface, which can be a question mark for some of the others here. So she is coming from off the pace, and you mentioned you think there's a lot of sneaky speed in here. So if the pace melts down, this horse is going to come flying late.
Yeah, I think that the distance is helpful for her too. The 1.70 yards. The worst race of her series here was that 1.16 last time out, or 2 back. In that race, she lost to 2 of them in here, but that was at the 1.16. They went a little bit slower up front, a little bit harder for her to close from all the way in the back of the pack and get up. If you look at that last race, she won at 1.70 yards and the 1-2 back at 1.70 yards. Both times she hit the lead, and she just kind of made the move way too early under Betancourt, 3 back. Last time, Castellano made a great move on her going 3 wide, and she had trouble 4 back. I mean, she was steadying on heels in the turn. So you have excuses in these earlier races. And I mean, I mentioned this when I was doing Red Bull Rewind. Castellano might be the best jockey right now outside of Saez over this course. I mean, he has done a wonderful job. And maybe it's because he naturally just ends up 3 wide on every horse, and it just plays to it.
And it plays well to it.
Just
go back to Aqueduct where you want to go 8 wide, man. There you go.
If you watch Castellano's wins, they're 3 and 4 wide, rolling down the middle of the course. But you know what? That plays really well right now on this course, especially going 2 turns. So I think he's a plus having him on. I think this is kind of one of those sneaky jockey upgrades when it goes from Gaffleon to Castellano, and you saw the difference in the buyer. You saw the step forward, might be the Lasix as well. And now you kind of get that light bulb angle. And it's one of those spots where I think this horse has a legit shot at 9-2. I like it. So I'm using the 4 and the 8. I'm using the 6, as I mentioned up at the start. Who else are you including here as a long shot? I'm interested to see which way you're going.
You called out one of them. Well, not in the long shot, but War of Ages, 5-1 is what the fourth choice on the line there. It is stretching out, and the big reason I use her because I'm like, there is some speed in here. I looked at possibly the 1. I think the 3, maybe even the 6 she's going to probably be more stalking, but she has been forwardly placed before. But I think that she just might be the fastest one here, and I love that Luis Saez is going to get aboard after she won her synthetic debut by 4.5 lengths. The question that I kind of can't answer here, and maybe you did earlier when you talked about it, was did Paco leave the 5 for the 6 on purpose? And maybe because Bennett, very strong at Tampa, doesn't come to Gulfstream that often, but a very strong trainer in Tampa. If that's the case, I'm not worried because if you're telling me that I'm losing a jockey, but I'm getting Saez on a horse that's going to be forwardly placed in all speed, I'm going to take it. I'm going to use it, but I'm curious to hear why you didn't use War of Ages quick.
Well, I didn't use War of Ages because you're going to need to take a monster step forward to be able to beat this field, I think. You're going to need to see probably close to a 20% improvement off of that last effort. Mm-hmm. Not sure we're really built to stretch out, which I think is kind of an issue as well. Now, I mentioned that speed isn't great 2 turns. Saez is really the only jockey that's been riding speed well going 2 turns. One thing to watch for on the synthetic course is the jockeys that take the horses to the 3 or 4 path top of the lane. That's what you want to see if you're on the lead. You want them to essentially wheel out right. Imagine if you're sitting in the pocket and you have 2 speed horses in front of you and you wheel out 3 wide. That's what you want to do with speed horses right now, so that you take up that 3 path. Anyone else has to go 4 or 5 wide, and you're running on a better part of the track than on the inside. Saez has been smart enough to do that this entire meet. So his gate-to-wire winners are all winning in the 3, 4, 5 path down the lane. And that's one of the reasons he's been successful. I didn't use him in this spot because I feel like Golden Bow, the 3 horse, has just as much speed, has an aggressive rider in Jose Ortiz Jr., and it's transferring over from the dirt sprints to the synth. I would be surprised if he doesn't fire. The other thing is War of Ages didn't make the top in that race. The early time form number is really high, but didn't make the lead going 23 and 3, whereas Golden Bow was making the lead going 23 and 3 and 22 or 22 and 3 and 22 and 4. So War of Ages is going to have to be on the hustle here to be able to make the lead compared to Golden Bow. I'd be surprised if Golden Bow doesn't try to protect the rail, which means War of Ages is now sitting 2 wide in a speed duel, and it sets it up for the 4, the 6, and the 8.
And you got Irad and Luis Saez battling each other on the front end. That's not going to – if that ends up happening, I'm going to know pretty quickly. Well, that's a bullet that I probably lost here. But at 5-1 fourth choice, I feel like it's a good value. By the way, Pentelicus, the dam sire, I was like, I have never heard of that horse, so I looked it up. 11 for 37. The best thing the horse did was get graded stakes placed, and that horse became a sire. That's the 80s and 90s for you in horse racing. Nowadays, it's a little bit different from a sire perspective. Last horse I used real quick, I'll talk about the number 2 Science Fiction at 8-1 right here at the top. Only multiple winner in the field. Has got 2 wins because the claiming races aren't being counted. So she's got that straight claiming win. But she exits a maiden claiming dirt win straight into a Florida bred stakes, which was on the synthetic course, and she didn't run a lick. So the question is, was she in way over her head? Was it the routing? Was it the synthetic? At 8-1, I'm going to shoot a bullet on her because I think that's a good price. I think she'll float up a little bit from there. But that is a big question. But again, I'm getting 8-1 on a horse in this field where there's some different question marks, and the synthetic is all over the place. So a multiple winner, I kind of want to at least hitch a wagon to her.
Yeah, I don't blame you. This would have been the 4th horse I used. I think that this is De La Cerda, who's 18% on synthetic, showing a lot of faith in the horse. It seems like the trainer believes that this is a surface that Science Fiction can be successful at. So I don't blame you for this one. I don't hate to play at 8-1. I'm a $54 ticket right now. If you want to make mine more expensive, I think it would be 72 with this. I would probably play. I wouldn't hate adding Science Fiction. And if one of my horses scratched out of here, that would be the next in for me.
Love to hear it. Third leg of the late pick 4 sequence, God damn it, I did it finally. Third leg of Friday Stronach 5 takes us to the Great Race Place. Race 3 at Anita Park. It's scratch of the 6 horse there, Macara, so we're going to have a field of 9 3-year-old fillies, sprinting 6 furlongs on the turf, in for $50,000 tag. Take $5,000 off if you want a weight allowance. Favoritism, number 5, Pretty Rena, 5-2. Number 7, Artist, 3-1. The Rail Horse, A Crown for Kitten, also 3-1. Mike, my top pick is the one that we agree on here, and that is Pretty Rena at 5-2. So would you like to talk about her first?
No, she's my second pick, so you can go ahead and do that.
All right. Class drop from Maiden Special Weight Company is cutting back in distance, getting John Velasquez aboard. All big signs. The debut for this horse was a really sneaky good effort. Mike McCarthy, the trainer, is a very low percentage first timers. He's like about 3%ers. So you usually want to see what do they do and how can we project moving forward, because maybe they'll win at second out. And then second out, she just got completely taken out of the race in the far turn. It's like she 8 wide. Okay, well, scratch that race off. Well, then last time out, they stayed in on an off-turf dirt route in the slop. Clearly hated everything about that day. I think it's funny that we're dropping here into maidens claiming. It's slightly concerning, Mike, but otherwise, this horse is, I mean, maybe the owners their patience is just getting thin. They're like, whatever, we'll move on from her. But I think that this is a great spot for this filly.
Yeah, I think so too. I also think that they're dropping in for maiden 50. It's not like horses get sniped out of here very often.
That's true.
So I don't think that they're as concerned about it. And this also gives them starter allowance credibility or qualifications, whatever the heck you want to call it, if they do run in this race and end up winning it. So they can go into those $50,000 starter allowances, where this horse would probably be a shorter price, 3-1, 4-1, especially if they win she breaks her maiden here. So I think it kind of makes sense, because you really are saying, hey, who wants to gamble on this one? You want to snipe her up, or do you want to leave Pretty Rena here and we're going to be able to have her protected for a little while after? So I think it makes a sense from the connections. Other reason I like this horse is that we're getting first-time Lasix, which I think will probably help her. On top of that, I don't think we've ever seen that speed from her that I think she has. The break in the second race wasn't wonderful. The first race, she flashed sub 22-second speed, going 5 furlongs at Santa Anita. I think this might be the horse that's on the lead, or at least the 7 and the 5 are going to be the two that are kind of bumping heads early, and I wouldn't be shocked if the 5 is actually the faster of the two. That's one of the reasons I actually left the 7 off my ticket, is I think the 5 can take the lead from the 7 and put the 7 in a little tougher position. I liked the 3 on top, though, here. I'm going to go with An Agent Mistake. And this is an interesting one for me. First off, I like Doug O'Neill. I like Redham, especially turf sprinting. I think they do pretty well. A lot of times it's with square eddies. I was kind of digging through some of the pedigrees here, and Klimt was one of those horses where you don't really think of him as a good sire. You actually think of him as a pretty terrible sire when you think about it. He started out his career 12%, but turf sprinting, he's actually been pretty good. He's around 11%, but on top of that, highest buyer from any Clint horse is a turf sprint with an 85, and his first time starter, 2-year-old. So, I realize we're 3-year-olds, so we're a little bit later in the season here, but he has shown that he can get those horses home to win early. Shown early speed with most of his horses. So I'm really interested in An Agent Mistake, especially at 3-1. That is the O'Neill that I would want. It's really the only other horse in here that I had any interest in besides the 3, the 5, and the 7.
One, because I did look up An Agent Mistake being a debut horse in this field. I was a little curious about her breeding. She has 3 older siblings who have raced. None of them won on debut. However, 2 of them, one missed by a nose and one missed by a head in their debuts. So pretty much her siblings are 2 for 3 a debut. I would count it that way. So you definitely have that angle going for you as well with the children of Belle du Sud there. I didn't use An Agent Mistake. This is actually my 4th horse. I went 3 deep here, but this is the one that didn't end up making my ticket. But a lot of great angles to like, and especially if she doesn't win, but doesn't look like complete trash on the field. I think Mike and I are both going to stable this one up for next time. I did use the 7 Artist. I'm gonna be a little bit of a chalky and weasel this race, but it's Flavien Prat on the turf. I mean, how can I not take it? Here's what I don't understand: the horse debuts isn't bet 26-1, debuts on the dirt, 6 furlong sprint, maiden 75. Doesn't run attends an early pace, cracks, falls way off the pace. Now we go to turf sprinting, and Flavien Prat's taking them out. I mean, nothing about that first race tells you that really this horse is going to be something special, unless you consider the fact that in that dirt sprint match, it was a very wicked pace that she was pressing inside. There isn't a lot of speed here. So I'm wondering if the 7, you think the 5 is going to beat the 7. I'm not taking a prop bet, so don't even ask me about it, but I think the 7 will be a little faster out of the gate. I think she's going to also have that outside edge. So if she goes with the 5, I like that the 7 is going to sit outside. And then you got a nice little duel with Velasquez and Pratt on the front end. Last one on for me, the 8 horse Indy Star, 10-1. Taking a little bit of a flyer on this horse, but she's taking a class drop, and not just in the race conditions, but in competition. The 2 horses who beat her, who won those races, they're Baffert to her top Kentucky Oaks contenders if they're eligible to actually win the Kentucky Oaks. So she's faced big monsters. Now, the monsters destroyed her, but I like the fact that we're gonna change things up a little bit. Urton's gonna move her to the turf. The big concern: this is a sprint race, and she is slow as balls out of the gates sometimes. So, as long as new jockey Tyler Bays is ready for a good 6 furlong arm workout, this horse is going to be ready to go. 10-1. We're making some changes here. I'm going to take a shot.
Yeah, the 8 I think is an interesting swing. The 8 and the 1 kind of were similar to me, where it's like, I just don't trust you because you're going to be so far back in a quick sprint here that I'm just not sure you're going to be able to make up the ground. The 7, Mohamed hasn't produced his turf sprint winner yet, 0 for 4.
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
And so I'm a little concerned on that front. Obviously, 4 is a pretty small sample size. But the high buyer of those 4 horses was 41. That's a 4 and a 1. That's not good. So I'm slightly concerned about that. That's one of the main reasons, although Pratt on is obviously a great angle at Santa Anita. Can't blame you for that one. But I think this horse is going to get overbet because Pratt takes the mount.
Yeah.
And I'd rather take a swing against this horse and save my bullets for other places, especially since I think Pretty Rain is a pretty good favorite in this spot.
Let's move. I agree with you on that one. It's definitely a good favorite. Let's move on the 4th leg of the Stronach 5 on Friday, heading back to Gulfstream. We're going to go on the dirt, and this is the race anyone's going to really care about on Friday. Race 9 for Gulfstream. 10 3-year-olds going a one-turn dirt mile. This is an optional claimer, not one other than event, but there are multiple horses who could come out of this race and go to the Kentucky Derby Trail, including the numbers 3 American Icon. He's your 7-5 favorite. You also have, if you want to play Pletchers, you've got 2 of them. Ironworks, another debut Pletcher winner. You got the My Racehorse money. Irad is going to ride 7-2 second choice. I singled American Icon. You didn't. So take it away. You want to talk about American Icon? You want to talk about the other horses you used? Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, American Icon clearly should be the favorite, is going to be the favorite. And could be awfully tough in this spot to beat. You had Happy Boy Rocket went out of that race. The horse was even money, a little over even money, and was just kind of ridden out. We never really saw all that American Icon could give. This is one of those horses that definitely could have a future. But look, Ironworks is a horse that I heard about before it debuted. I talked to Magic about this before the draft, that we should draft Ironworks as a maiden, or as an unraced horse. And Magic poo-pooed on my Ironworks draft pick.
When Gilded Age wins at Aqueduct this weekend, we will be redeemed.
I'm telling you, if Ironworks wins here, I'm going to be a little salty this wasn't our 5th round pick.
Especially when we lose the shake on Tuesday next week.
Yeah. When we lose, that's the other part of it that probably is going to piss me off. But I think Ironworks is one of those horses that you shouldn't sleep on. I think the fact that you have Ortiz on Ironworks also tells you that this horse is good. They believe this horse is ready to roll. So I'm using both the 3 and the 6. Since I'm going too deep, I added a 3rd horse here. And that was Graphic Detail on the inside, who I think is going to get completely ignored. Look, Graphic Detail did nothing wrong, looked very good, and beat a track bias at Belmont on November 6th, okay? He was able to close in a track that just wasn't allowing people to close, steps up to the Mucho Macho Man, and just kind of gets run off his feet a little bit, but still not a bad performance overall. I am interested to see what this horse has coming back. I'm interested to see if this horse runs as well. This horse may scratch out because he's also entered for February 5th, which I believe is Sunday, right? So
the Swale Stakes on Saturday.
So we'll see if we end up in the Swale or if we're going to end up here in this tough allowance. I wouldn't be shocked if they scratch out of the tough allowance for the Swale. But if we stay in here and we're willing to face these two, I have a feeling Graphic Detail is pretty good. And this is a practical joke that sold for $320,000 at sale. I love me some practical joke. The horse is up by a Dixie Union mare on the bottom side. I mean, this should be a very, very good horse. So if Graphic Detail decides to stay in this race, I think it's all systems go. And there's enough speed in here that I think it could set up for someone to come from off the pace, especially if American Icon takes any type of regression here.
Well, and a couple things working in your favor. Getting first-time Lasix here is second time as a 3-year-old. First time in a non-stakes as a 3-year-old. And you just talked when we had our last Gulfstream discussion. Who do you want on a horse that loves to run 4 wide more than Javier Castellano? This horse has been 4 wide every time, Mike. Let's put Castellano on. Maybe that's the difference maker here. And also, I like that it's a 1-turn mile. You got being by practical joke. You kind of want to let's keep it a little shorter distance, at least early there. The other, and I don't hate your picks there. If I was going to use a second one, I'd actually go just to his outside and go with the number 2 In Due Time. This is a son of Not This Time out of a Curlin mare who's running beyond 6 furlongs for the first time. This, kind of like what I talked with Laurel, but this horse actually possibly having talent, tells me that this horse is going to be potentially really good. I'll also clue you in. Edge Racing, that's my racehorse's like elite brand. If you want to have like a minimum 10% ownership in a horse through My Racehorse, you actually go through Edge Racing. So My Racehorse has 2 horses in this field. You've got Ironworks and you've got In Due Time in this spot. Different trainers, so I understand why they would both show up in this spot, but I really think that In Due Time could be sitting on a big one. I don't know that he's good enough to win, to beat both of the Pletchers here, but watch this horse moving forward, man.
I don't hate it either. That was the other one I was looking at. It was the 1 and the 2 that were kind of the last on my ticket here, and they were the ones I was going back and forth between. I think either of them could step up here, and I just, with Pletcher having 2 in here, that really, it's a head scratcher, man. Like, I don't understand why you have 2 in this spot. If you're putting both of them or wheeling both of them toward the Derby, having them face each other in allowance, just I Yeah, especially when you have a stakes race this weekend with points. Like what is American Icon doing in here and not there? Why is like it does? There's just enough question marks for me. Yeah, maybe they roll, maybe they do, but maybe they don't.
Right. There's enough question marks at 7-5, and the horse will be bet down from that because of all the steam this horse has gotten since his debut. I understand what you're saying there. You would say why didn't it go straight into stakes? Do you remember Prime Factor? What did we do with Prime Factor last year? Big old splashy debut win in December. Let's go straight to the stakes. We're taking it easy. We're going to relax a little bit and actually. But to your point, Tampa is just across town, and Pletcher loves to send horses for allowance races over there. You couldn't find a Pletcher or an allowance race for Ironworks or American Icon there. I get what you're saying.
Emmanuel just ran over there. Real quick, what type of talent though was Prime Factor? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's not judge the previous past. If this horse is that good, it can take on Stakes Company right now. Prime Factor wasn't good. That was the problem, not the progression route that we took.
Let's move on to the fifth and final leg of the Friday Stronach 5. You want to talk about horses that maybe aren't as good as they originally thought when they were born. Golden Gate Fields, race 3 on their card, a 5.5 furlong synthetic sprint that attracted 10 older males, non-winners of 2 lifetime, in for $4,000 tags. Potential Derby Trail freak to this. Horse racing, this is fun. Favoritism, 8 horse Bourbon with the twist at 2-1. He loves to hit the board. 14 starts, just 1 win, but 7 additional times in the money. He's 7 for 9 hitting the board at Golden Gate. But do you want to play him to win? Short price. I don't know. Where'd you go on top?
God, I went to a price on top here. I went to the 9 horse, Big Irish Eyes. Yeah, just a little, getting a little creative on this one. Look,
scroll down here.
Yeah, see, this is only the second time this horse has been at the $4,000 level. Last time out, we did this before the break. It just seemed like we needed one there. The horse had late interest in the race. It was 3-1 on that day. Ends up running in 7th. But if you go back and look at what this horse has raced prior to that, so broke its maiden over here, Golden Gate, in $25,000 maiden claimer, stepped up to $50,000 allowance, drops down to claimer, steps up back up to $50,000 allowance, then faces 12.5 claimers. Kind of runs an okay race in all these different races, but hasn't really gotten back to that synthetic sprinting where it broke its maiden against anywhere near a level that I think is appropriate outside of that 4,000 N2L. But that was at the end of the campaign. It was the last of 8 races. Horse kind of seemed a little bit out of it by then. I'm willing to give this horse a chance off the layoff. If we could take any type of step forward, this horse's numbers already fit with this group. I mean, it's not like you need to take any massive step forward. And this is late. Like they wrap this one up September 5th, 2021. We're debuting, 5 months later, 6 months later here? I mean, this is a fresh horse just off the farm. Is going to have every chance to run a big effort. On top of that, plays right into what you want to do here. I mean, you've got a ton of speed in this spot. I think that you're going to want someone from off the pace. And yeah, it's 5.5 furlongs. And I know it's hard to close in 5.5, especially at this level, and blibbity blue. But I do think that a horse from off the pace has a slight advantage here. And if I take the best horse from off the pace, I think it's the 9 Big Irish Eyes. So I used the 9 on top. The 8 was one of the other horses I used just because logically Bourbon with a twist makes a ton of sense in this spot. And I almost just used those 2, but I did end up going 3 deep.
We have the same opinion on Bourbon with a twist. We both went 3 deep, and unfortunately for me, this is the only one to agree on. And I say that because if you're following along with how Mike does, especially at NHC, he tends to do really well at Golden Gate. And so when we're completely almost opposite sides here in a race, it makes me pretty nervous. But at least we like the favorite, and although that's not the one I wish we agreed on. I will also add 2 points on Big Irish Eyes. One, as our friend of the show, Caleb Keller, says, you are contractually obligated if you have a horse by Mr. Big to put the word big in the horse's name. So Big Irish Eyes. But also the trainer, Terso Rivera, 5 starters so far at the meet. No wins, no seconds, but 5 thirds. You can't do that if you try. That tells me the horses are running well. Maybe the multiple horses are coming from off breaks. I'm not sure, but you've got a barn that's clicking along, and only 32 starters last year, but 6 wins. It's a 19 win percentage. All good signs. All that to say, I didn't use the horse, but good signs for you. It's a question of how does the horse come back from the layoff. Yep. And for me, being a small trainer here, I was a little concerned about it.
Yeah, you don't have. I mean, it's 0 for 1 off this type of layoff, so you really don't have much of a stat line either. You're not really. I mean, 0 for 1 is like, well, that's 1 for 1 would be that much better. I mean, yeah, obviously 100% is better than 0%, but in one sample size, it's not that really telling long term of how a trainer's going to do. And hopefully, we get a big run. So I used the 8 and the 9 to start out. Was the 8 your top pick? Or do you have someone else on top?
No, I actually went with the 5 Minsky at 9-2. Last out, watch that race on December 26th. So that horse was loaded, and there was just so much traffic blocking in this horse, and not the best ride. Couldn't get going. Finally wheels out and gets going and finishes strongly. But that, if you watch, the horse was just struggling. It's like that horse could have exploded. I don't know if it would have won, but definitely could have fought for second. And speaking of which, second place horse won next out. So that tells me that for this level, the horse is doing very well and can contend. But I love that 47-2 bullet work on January 29th. When do you see 4K non-winners of 2 lifetime burn 47-2 on synthetic in a workout? I mean, that's nuts. And that part of me is almost worried that that's claim bait, that they're trying to get somebody to take this horse off, and they put a race into the horse in a workout to make you go, hey, 4,000 for a horse that's going that fast, and you get it, and the horse is junk. So that's the one concern I have. But otherwise, I really like the horse here.
What about the workout before it? 47 flat bullet workout going 4 furlongs over synthetic. It is totally claim bait. That is what that screams, right? Because if you also have this horse coming out of like obvious trouble last time, why did they leave this horse at the $4,000 level too? Why aren't we at the like 62.5 where you claimed it? I mean, to me, there's and I don't disagree. I think Minsky is a horse that's 100% playable here, could totally win this race. And the owner is the people that claimed it also train it, so the trainer claimed this horse. I'm just surprised this horse showed back up at 4,000 if they thought that race was really the version of this horse that we're going to get, right? I mean, that was to me one of the bigger concerns. And so I just didn't want to take this horse when I felt like we had to run that race again to beat this field, which totally could happen. But I had enough concerns not to take the 5. But I wouldn't talk anyone off the 5 either.
Last horse I use is going to be the 6, just is outside Lucas McCain for Isidro Tomeo, another trainer who partially owns the horse. It's a very fast horse early. He has on the rail the last 2, and I feel like that kind of compromised him trying to sprint from the rail, especially 2 back. Got a lot of pressure early. You see that he never got a comfortable lead and ends up falling off and finishing last. I think with him being drawn outside, Mike, I'm hoping that's the difference maker here. Being outside, he won't get, if no pace pressure to his outside, very little pace pressure to his outside. And Tomeo at these low-level claiming events at Golden Gate, it's a risky proposition betting against him, just like it is with Jonathan Wong. You can do it, and when you do it correctly, you can usually get a lot of value, make some money. To me, I think this is a spot I've got to use Tomeo.
Yeah, to me, it was Bourbon with a Twist beating him twice in a row. That made it tough for me to put him on the ticket here. By the way, did you notice who beat him 2 back?
You mean, wait. Oh, Pozo Creek?
Yeah, that was the horse that was the next out winner in Minsky's race last time.
Minsky.
The 5 horse.
Oh, I see what you're saying there. Yeah, he exited. He won Minsky's last race in December to beat Lucas McCain in that spot. Thank you. The lines were not connecting there, but I got you now.
And it's interesting, that was a 62.5 race. So they did move up the second place horse out of that 4,000 claimer, who then went on to win a 65 claimer. So yeah, I mean, again, and that horse beat Bourbon with a Twist, but obviously Minsky finished behind that horse. So I just think Bourbon with a Twist kind of covers both of these horses. I went to the 2 horse. Magic Tiger is my last horse in here. Also lost to Bourbon with a Twist last time out, but was a $1.70 favorite against Bourbon with a Twist last time out, which I think is kind of interesting. We're dropping down from the 6,250 level to the $4,000 level, so just a slight drop in class. The race 2 back is good enough to win this. The race 4 back is by far good enough to win this.
Yeah.
The race 5 back probably good enough to win this. Getting 5-1. And this is the other Jamie Thomas horse, which I think is interesting as well, since the 5 horse is a Jamie Thomas horse as well. So it's interesting for him to have 2 in here, and you're using one, I'm using the other. We'll see how that one ends up. But yeah, I ended up going here 2, 8, 9 in this spot.
My one concern, and I looked at the 2 a lot, my one concern is kind of what I liked about the 6 being drawn outside. I don't like that the 2 is going to be inside. That race 2 back could win this. The race 2 back, the horse was drawn outside all of the other speed and could stalk. I'm a little nervous that what happened last time where he was pressing the pace and was still outside, but fell off of it. I'm a little worried that'll happen. But otherwise, it's another, Jamie Thomas owns this horse partially too. So listen, if Jamie Thomas wins this race, one of us is going to cash. We just don't know who that'll be.
Oh, man, this is interesting. This is a tough Golden Gate race. It's kind of, we talked about that last race on Saturday was a tough race. Like, this is another one you have a clear favorite in the 8 horse, right? But it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily end up with the 8 winning here. I think this is one of those tough races from Golden Gate that you could go 4, 5, 6 different directions. They kind of trade off the winner's circle with each other, where you're going to see, one horse will win this, then another horse will win. They'll face each other at the N3L level, and then the other horse will win. It's a back and forth type group here.
It reminds me of it's like a much worse version of the California Older Dirt like handicap division where it's just like, God, they just like, speaking of which, we got Express Train as a way too low of a price favorite in the San Pasquale this weekend. Like, all right, he's going to lose. Which one of the other donkeys is going to beat him in that stupid race?
And then that horse will be favored next time out. And that
right.
horse will lose.
and that's when you play Express Train, right?
Right.
Yeah. Damn, I was going to see if I could make a Magic Tiger work on my ticket. It's just a little too much. But for Dr. Tang, which, by the way, all the feedback that we got from Mike's show, which was great. I appreciate everybody joining us. All the feedback I got was not how nice it was or how great it was to hear from. It was Dr. Tang in his in his scrubs, taking a break from curing cancer to talk about Mike and NHC. That was by far the biggest feedback I got from that show.
It's a blast to play with him, man. It's so much fun. It was hilarious to see Dr. Tang in the full doctor outfit there. Just getting some work done, curing cancer while talking about NHC.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to go through the Stronach 5 that's on Friday, February 4th. Again, if you missed it at the top of the show, just remind you, $1 minimum, 12% extremely low takeout, full pool payout as long as somebody hits the ticket. So lots of reasons to love this. Also, it starts and ends within about an hour, hour and a half. So it's it's quicker than a football game. You can figure out whether you won or not. If you're watching us live or you're taking a look on the replay, thanks for joining us. Take a look down below. We've got our tickets here. I'll go ahead and start with mine for $1 minimum, remember. I'm going to go 1-7 with 2-4-5-8 with 5-7-8 singling American Icon, and then 5-6-8. That is a $72 ticket. I'm a little more expensive than you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to single to start this out. I'm taking the 7 with 4-6-8 with 3-5 with 1-3-6 with 2-8-9 for $1. That'll cost you $54. I'm afraid this might not pay that much.
And we both were kind of playing it that way, a little chalkier. We're using bourbon with a twist. We both are. A horse is going to be a lot lower than 2-1 in that spot. So we'll see what goes out. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, by the way. I'm at Chris Kalleward. He's at Somobomb 18, number 1, number 8. And the reason I say that, other than just we're amazing follows, and if you're not doing it, we'll brighten up your day when you follow us. But as Mike said, one of the horses he was going to use in the American Icon race might run Saturday instead. So if you want to know who Mike is going to use instead, who he's going to replace, how his ticket move around, you follow us on Twitter. We put out the final tickets if there are any changes, so that way you can get all the information. Mike, it's going to be a fun weekend. I mentioned that the Holy Bull Stakes is kind of the crowning race over at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, but we have the Holy Bull wagering guide available at racenews.com. If you played last weekend's Pegasus World Cup wagering guide, you've got a ton of money to burn, especially to the live bankroll article. Don't have the live bankroll article for this one, but there is still plenty of good win picks in here. You can see all the horses who Aaron likes to win on the day. So great information. We've also got previews for the Wither Stakes and the Holy Bull if you want Aaron and Jared's in-depth thoughts about those races. We did have Oaklawn previews. I spent all day yesterday working on these wonderful Oaklawn previews that are now junked because they canceled. But I know, I understand, though. Listen, take care of everybody. And I like that we said preemptively, look, Friday, Saturday, Sunday's off the table, and it's not even the weekend yet. It'd be nice if other tracks took that initiative, but at least we appreciate Oaklawn doing that. And then, of course, if you my single in that race, American Icon, Aaron did this video with me a long time ago after he won his debut, where we talked about American Icon and what is his potential as a 3-year-old. So you can check that out over at racingdudes.com, and then racingdudes.com/sports. Well, we're switching over to the NCAA basketball, March Madness coming upon us, and the NBA. And Dudes Who Bet Sports, talking basketball and nonsense. That's a pretty apt title, actually, Aaron. It was a fun show, but there was a lot of nonsense as tends to go on in those shows.
Click on free NHL picks.
Free NHL picks. Oh yeah, this is great too. Thanks. I'm glad you're taking over.
No, we're having fun with it. So Aaron, Mike, Magic, when he was doing this before, we were all picking it. So
Magic got off the train. He forgot to do it. Sorry.
Get back on the train.
I'm trying.
Well, there's no games today. That's why you can't see anything. But,
that's right.
Yeah. But every day, every game, Papa Dude, Aaron, and I are all playing NHL picks. So definitely check that out. Have a little fun with it if you want to bet some NHL.
Where's this widget at? There we go. Okay, sorry, we're on the little computer. But this is something that Dudes Who Bet Sports has shown in their live streams, but something that, a new feature that we're very excited about. Our friends at TallySite helping put this together for our website. This awesome widget where we can log in and we can make our picks, and then it just populates right here. So you can see very clearly, we think this is a really great design. TallySite, a wonderful job kind of designing the look here. It's very simple, but you can go through and you can see who everybody likes. This is the NBA picks, but this exact same look is how it is for the NHL, for the NFL when it was on the college basketball. So just imagine there's a column here, Mike Somich's beautiful smiling face and all of his NHL picks going down the side of it. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. RacingNews.com/sports. We've got all of these free picks that are up there. Aaron tells you at the top how he's been doing on some of them. Well, he doesn't have the NBA one, but his NHL one has been very strong. He was, I think he said 270 and 273 and 206. So you want to make some money betting NHL when the All-Star break is over with. Check back. Aaron's going to have you covered here, and Mike, and maybe me.
You also have records on the bottom of those grids, so you can see how everyone's doing that week. So you can kind of ride whatever the hot hand is that week and see how everybody's doing if you want to check it out.
Yeah,
lots of the NFL back, because I expect that we will all be forced to do that for every NFL game, and that would be awfully fun to kind of keep it going through the whole season.
I have a feeling, we haven't floated this to each other yet, but I have a feeling we'll have some sort of a tournament or something like that, and maybe we can get the fans involved. We'll work on something with that if there's enough interest. We'll publicly post our picks, and the fans will do like a little side tournament. If you're a subscriber, maybe we have a little tournament, see week to week and overall against the spread who's the best, or maybe our own little Superbook contest with a much smaller buy-in.
I like it.
That's over at racenews.com and racenews.com/sports. Thank you so much for joining Mike and I to go through the Stronach 5. Make sure you go to racenews.com. Again, the inside track to the Holy Bull Stakes wagering guide is available. Plenty of Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks coverage at youtube.com/racingdudes. Make sure you subscribe to that one. Mike and I will be back on Monday to talk about everything that happened this weekend. Lots of Derby and Oaks action, so we'll have plenty to talk about. But until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Thanks so much for joining us, Mike. I hope your voice is better by Monday, buddy, because it is slowly peaking up there. We'll get there. We'll see you guys next time.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.